That's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Disney, or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it, Legends. Today I have for you what I remember to be the worst of New Jedi Order, which is the Force Heretic trilogy. This first one being Remnant, written by Sean Williams and Shane Dix. This is book 15 of the New Jedi Order. Now, here's the art. You'd see that. I still prefer the Japanese art, but one thing I will say is that this is, I don't know if I like it, but it is interesting art. I may be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. If you remember back when I reviewed the Quinlan Vos comics, back before the Clone Wars, set before that, there were a couple arcs with him and Aayla Secura and the Enzati, and the comic cover art looked a lot like this. I believe it's the same person. So let me get what I dislike out of the way, because I actually quite like this book more than I remembered. I think more of my issues come from the sequel book, more so than this one. There are no chapters. Which, the first time reading it, I read it on my phone, so that might have been why it was worse. Because it just feels like you're in this book forever. But at least if you have a physical copy, you feel the progression. You feel like you're actually getting through it. But I don't like that. I never have. I like... Chapters are a way for me to be like, I am making progress. Like, and it's a good place to stop. You know, like when I'm in the middle of work and you have no stopped chapters, you have like little breaks, and that's basically like a new chapter. But it's so annoying. You have to be like, for example, here's basically a new chapter. This like little break right here, this is a new section. But if you're gonna do the little break, then just do chapters. It makes no sense to not do it. So I hate that. But it's really like my biggest gripe with this first one. I felt like this was a bit long. I felt like this didn't need to be 400 pages. But alas, it is. So that's what we have to deal with. And I feel like this is a problem with this entire trilogy is pacing. Because the pacing here I don't feel is the best. But it's all good stuff. So it's not as frustrating as, like, let's say, the Bounty Hunter Wars, because there is good stuff in here. I just still feel like it's paced incorrectly. Like, it just feels too long, like, unnecessarily for what it's trying to tell, because it's going to stretch this whole story across 3 books. Because of, what is the story? Jason, Mara, Luke, Saba, and Danny Kui, our favorite character. Actually, I don't care about her at all. I read all these books, and I've still yet to actually give a single damn about her as a person. I don't care, because I haven't spent enough time with her for me to care, and she likes Jason, so I automatically hate her. But she's just there. She's nothing special. She's just around. I don't like her. So that's another thing. But anyway, they're all going to look for Zamna Sakat, the planet that Vergier just decided to blurb out all of a sudden to Jason. And on the way, they're also going to try to talk to the Chiss and the Imperial Remnant about forming an alliance. At the same time, we have Han, Leia, Jag, Jaina, and Tahiri Vela doing other stuff. Tahiri's acting up a little bit. She's acting a little weird. This will be more important in the next 2 books. but there's stuff going on with Tahiri that hasn't been resolved from previous books. We thought it was resolved, but it actually isn't. So I can't speak of it too much in this book because it's just the start of that. It's kind of introducing that, but not actually exploring it. So I don't have too much to add there, other than she's acting a little sus. And, there's some good moments with her, though. And Jaina reflecting on Tahiri, realizing that her grief is almost just as much as Jaina's, if not more. And she may not be family, but what she had with Anakin was that deep. And Tahiri even says in her mind, that Jaina could have been family. She could have been my sister if things were different. These people would have been my family. And so that's just hard to read. But, yeah, because all the stuff I want to talk about is really in spoilers. They do end up meeting Luke and everyone. Ends up meeting the Imperial Remnant. And of course, they meet Gilead. They get to see Gilead Pelion again, and they help them against a Vong incursion against them. And there's a lot of great Pelion moments. And this is kind of started something we'll see. Right now, they're kind of just teaming up. But by the end of the series, there will be a new thing where the Empire and the New Republic is already kind of gone, but the last vestiges of it will turn into something new, which is perfect, right? Because you have a continuation of the movies. So isn't it so like it to make the previous villain into an ally? The Empire was the bad guy of the films, even the prequels, because the Republic was just going to turn into the Empire. That's why Episode 2 doesn't end with the victory lap; it ends with the Imperial March. So it was always Palpatine and the Empire, the villains. So by turning that around and making them be allies, you've really shown the progression of this world, and that never really changes. Even if you don't like stuff post the story, Legacy of the Force, Fate of the Jedi. Fate of the Jedi, you have the Moffs kind of conspiring and stuff, but regardless, the military and the normal citizens of the Empire are allies still, even by the end of that. Eventually that changes at some point because of the Fell Empire, but that's long down the line. So, for a good long while, the Empire is a good guy. It's a good faction, and I think that's really great. But yeah, there's a lot of great moments with Pelion, a lot of good moments with Jason. Don't mistake me when I say Jason is in that I'm trying to make a point about him going dark. I don't do that in every review I do. There's actually really nothing here that really would show that outside of one thing that I just want to mention because I like pissing people off. But other than that, this is just Jason being awesome. And I have nothing to try to upset you with or say to really try to hammer in the point that I like Legacy of the Force, but because some of the things in here I do in this series I do think further illustrate that point, but this is not the book that does that. But then again, Vergier's winning consistently, and so is Jason, depending on the author. But I won't get into that thing here because everybody wants to talk about how New Jedi Order is just perfect and peachy, but it's not. But yeah, so overall, it was a solid read. It's a bit longer than it needed to be, but there's a lot of good stuff in here. Also, people talk about Saba Sabatine being this pet character of Troy Denning, but they use her a lot in this series, and she's phenomenal. I loved her long before she became more prominent with stories post this, but why not? Everything we get of her in this book is awesome. Every time she's shown up in the EU so far, she's been awesome. So why wouldn't I want to see more of her in stories set after New Jedi Order? She's one of the best parts of this series. I love Saba. She's awesome. Compare that to Danny Kui, who's boring and nothing character. I love Saba. So, but overall, that's my short review of Force Heretic Remnant. It's solid. I enjoyed it. We'll see how I feel about the sequel on Bakura. But we'll get to that when we get to that. I'm gonna get into spoilers. If you don't want that, time for you to leave. At the beginning of this book, Saba's homeworld is ruined by the Vong, and she accidentally kills her people. The Vong are leaving with their ships after having ruined an entire planet. And Saba allows the dark side to kind of get the best of her. She gets angry because they've killed her people. So she starts shooting at the ships, and she blows up some of the ships, only to realize she didn't sense any life signs on what was left of the planet. It's because what was left of the life was on the ships that she just blew up. So she killed some of her people. That was, I felt bad for her. Politicians are having their meetings, what to do with the Vong, and so are the Jedi at the same time. The Jedi are having their separate discussion, and Kip's there and everything, and Kip mentions Kyle, which was pretty cool, Kyle Katarn, which shows that he is around, which was a nice mention. We have one comic with him during the Vong War, but we don't have any novels or anything with him, but it's cool to know that the video game character is around and he is doing things. Oh, I forgot to mention the most important aspect, or the most fun part of these books. I'm sorry. Well, that sucks for the non-spoiler people. They'll have a surprise when they read it. Naminor. Naminor is still in hiding due to the events of Destiny's Way. He is in the underbellies of Yusantar, Coruscant. And he meets up with the Shamed Ones. This is actually one of the most fascinating parts of the book. How did I forget to mention this? Whatever. The spoiler people know. Naminor's prejudice is interesting, and the real reason he hit the Shamed One. So this is my opinion on Naminor. If you've seen Game of Thrones, then you already know. If you haven't, then you don't know. He's Littlefinger. He wants to rise to the top. He wants to be number one Vong. He wants to be the most important Vong. He wants the power, he wants the glory, he wants the fame, but he doesn't care about how he acquires to do so. But he's also very prejudiced against the Shamed Ones, because that's the culture he's been ingrained in. But at the same time, this man talks about heresy, talks about all the virtues of the Vong, but he doesn't mind picking up technology if it suits his interest. He doesn't mind working with an infidel if it suits his interest. Oh, he says, like, oh yeah, I hate them. But he would do whatever he needed to get on top. Naminor is an insecure little man. The Shamed One calls him a Shamed One. Says we are the same. And Naminor loses it. Do I think, and starts beating the ever-living crap out of this guy. You think you'd have stronger self-control. But he was one of the most high-topped officials in the Yusung Vong society. Sorry. And he's been dropped down to being basically homeless and at the bottom of the barrel. So to be compared to somebody of the lowest possible character, why would he like that? It's not that he called him a Shamed One, it's that he knows he's at the bottom when he was at the top, and that's what bothers him. It was his pride, his ego, that had been messed with. And that wasn't okay to Naminor. Naminor doesn't want to be compared to the average person, let alone the bottom of the barrel person. He wants to be better than you. He wants to be at the top. This is where we get the most characterization for Naminor and his feelings and beliefs. It's fascinating to see, and we'll get more of it in the next two books. So here's my only thing. Jason's genocide and the dark side. So he said this in multiple books now. I don't want a genocide. I don't want a genocide. That's great. You know what he directly says in this book, though, is that, we gotta do what we gotta do sometimes. So that doesn't mean genocide. But think about Jason pre-Traitor. Jason pre-Traitor would have cried about every single death to the Vong, or every single death to a Jedi, or every single death to a normal person. He would have been like, wow, 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 we shouldn't be fighting. Now he's like, no, we should. If I gotta kill someone, I gotta kill them. I don't want to genocide people, because that's unnecessary and violent. But if someone needs to be taken down, you do it. You don't second guess it. You don't cry about it. You get it done. Now, does that mean he's dark side? No. But it does mean he's willing to do things he wasn't before. And that's a slippery slope. People act as if he's this homicidal maniac in Legacy of the Force, but he's simply not. It is one action, one, this is okay, or this was necessary. I needed to do it. Down, 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 down. Slippery slope. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And when you believe that the dark side doesn't exist, and that you are inherently a good person, as Vergier seemed to try to imply to you, and that you can't actually fall dark unless there's darkness in you, then there's nothing that can happen. Though, of course, we know that that's not true, because that's not how the dark side works. Based on every piece of expanded universe material, whether that be the novels, whether that be the comics, whether that be the films themselves with the prequels, it's not a choice. That's like saying heroin addicts made a choice to initially put the needle in, but then you become a slave to it. Anybody who says otherwise, you're ignorant and stupid and you don't know what you're talking about. You don't. Or there's some more controversial things. Oh, this is a choice. I'm not getting into that. I'm not going to do it here. But, no. Anyway, that's my other thing there. But it was just interesting because he harpers on a lot in a couple of these books now that he doesn't want a genocide. That's great, man. Why do you... When you keep saying it over and over, it's like you're trying to convince me or yourself. Now, that's just me being facetious. I know that he's not going to genocide anyone. It's just weird that they keep harping up this point. But, anyway, point being, no, Jason's not a villain here. He's not going dark. But it has to be acknowledged that he's willing to do things that he wouldn't have been willing to do prior to Traitor. Can we all agree? Great. Let's move on. This is a little weird. So Tahiri's like talking to Jason and she smells Anakin. A little weird. We're gonna move on from that though. I just want to mention that. Another thing I find interesting about Nominor and all of this, he comes up with this plan that he needs to join up with the Shamed Ones, and it's gonna become this whole thing. It was again in the next two books, but he kind of wants to start this rebellion with the Shamed Ones to kind of, if he can't legitimately get his way to the top, here's another way to do so. But when the Shamed Ones ask him about certain stuff, he promises to keep his word. And we can see inside his mind, we can see if he's lying and he's not. He generally goes, if they help me get out of this mud hole that I'm in, then I will reward them. And he means it. You know, and a lot of villains and just Star Wars alone or other media would just be like, as soon as they help me, I'm going to betray them. But not him. He's fully committed to being like, if you help me, I will help you. And it's just fascinating. Oh, sorry, I forgot about this. I do have one legitimate point. Jason's a bit dismissive of the Empire being in pain. Again, Jason pre-Traitor, we've been crying, oh, the loss of life. They can't be killing people. Now, well, they did it to themselves, didn't they? They didn't listen to us the first time when we told them that this was going to be a problem. and now they're facing the consequences. That's very dismissive, and that's very cold. Oh, but Jason cares about all life. He's the next Qui-Gon Jinn. He's generally very cold here. Maybe you can just say, oh, well, it's the Empire, it's okay. If that's the case, then shut your mouth about Kip Durin. It's just the Empire, right? But if we're gonna play this game, if we're gonna do the full, well, the Empire's people too, then he's being pretty dismissive in this book about their plight. I mean, he doesn't want them to die. He doesn't want them to be murdered and butchered. He's not some awful bloodthirsty killer or anything, but he still is kind of indifferent to the fact that they're in suffering, and kind of sees it as them putting it upon themselves. That is a genuine point in my favor. Piss off. That was weird. So, Jason thinking about the future. It was just interesting to hear him think about. It wasn't. This isn't even a point about Legacy of the Force or him being this master Jedi, Qui-Gon Jinn, perfect person. Blah, blah, blah. It was just, what do you do after 5 years of war? What is life after that? How do you go back to normal after that? So, I think a lot of people deal with that or ex-veterans or anything. So, I thought that was interesting. And this is where we really get to see that the shamed ones have fully embraced the Jedi and to see them as their saviors, their Jesus Christ, if you will, as a way of getting them out of their depressive state, as a way of getting them out of the shamed one status. Gilead, Pelion, arrives, and we get some amazing stuff with him. A lot of amazing speeches by Gilead in this book, I have to tell you. Jason kind of becomes the negotiator in this book for a lot of the things with the Empire, which is interesting. But I guess I did have more than one thing, but it's just simply, when did he have time to become a diplomat? Because I see this more as manipulation. Like he's purposely trying to do certain things to get the desired outcome he wants. Now, I guess politicians do that too, but he's never been a politician. He's never trained for that. He's never practiced for that. He's simply manipulating, which I find inherently negative, because I don't think you should manipulate anyone. You should just convince other people through rational discourse, because manipulate is inherently negative. Like you're inherently twisting things in order to get a desired outcome, which I guess is fine for politicians. I don't know. It's just, I remember previously in the previous book, I think it was Destiny's Way, that he commented on the fact that he's really good at manipulating people. He specifically says so. And it's just a little weird. Why would you be proud of that? I don't know. And lastly, I'll say, because he re-mentions the Vergiers, don't worry. You're a good person. Don't worry. The only dark side is the dark side inside you. And again, I personally just see that as inherently. Now people are saying, oh, well, she was just saying that because the Vong are around, but she reiterates this when there aren't Vong around, so your excuse is invalid. This is what she believes, truly and honestly, because she has said it regardless of where she's at, so that's just the view she holds. So I just see that as a flawed belief that she has. Oh yeah, the Yavethans, remember them from Black Fleet Crisis? Well, they're basically extinct. Maybe there's some stragglers left that could be picked up in another story, but for all intents and purposes, the Yavethan people are gone. That's due to the Vong. Chaos is a ladder. This is what I meant by Nominor is Littlefinger. By the end of this book, he allows people that helped him get out of, the little rut he was in, gave him food, lets them die, keeps one guy alive, says, if I let you live, you're going to listen to me, you're going to obey me. And at the second that I see that you're being disloyal, I will kill you. And he convinces people, or he's going to convince people, that he is a prophet, that he is going to get the Shane ones out of the bottom of the pits, that he will help the Jedi and help the Shamed Ones acquire getting out of their caste. Ranking. If he can't be at the top by normal means, then he will use this chaos of the Shamed Ones in order to get back where he needs to be. Chaos is a ladder. The only thing that matters is the climb to the top. And I love that about Nominor. He's a fascinating character, he really is. And Gilead gives a speech to the Vong about how the Empire always strikes back. Nice reference. And basically, shut up, we need to join up with the Galactic Alliance. Shut your mouth. All of which was splendid and great to see. Gilead's one of the greatest characters in the expanded universe, and I'd love to see it. But that's pretty much it, guys. Up next, we have Book 2, where they will go to Bakura, and it'll be a massive, 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 massive side quest. But I hope you all join me for that. Until next time, guys, may the Force be with you.